Pay your employees minimum wage. Well, if you do that, you might not get a loan. If you don't pay $15 an hour, well, if you do that, you might not get banking. If you don't get to $15 an hour, you might not get the banking services you need. Which just, instead of passing a bill that says the minimum wage is $15, it basically enforces a $15 minimum wage without having to pass the bill.
It makes mob rule. Whatever the mob says you need to do, or whatever the unelected stakeholder says that you have to do. It also included stakeholdership in every major corporation called a golden stakeholder. So the government would have a golden stakeholder position on every board of directors. So they could overrule the board should the government think that they should be overruled on something. So it gives the government stakeholder status in every major corporation of America. It's insane, Stu. It's insane. And nobody is really talking about it.
No, really. The only thing, whenever you talk about it, people just say it's a conspiracy theory.
It's there.
It's there. It's done.
It's there. It's already on whitehouse.gov. It's part of the initiative from the president. It's already being implemented in the Treasury and the Federal Reserve.
How much of this is in the reconciliation bill? Do they need it?
No, I don't know if they need very much. They need to have the $10,000 thing in there to be able to control. Remember, that is just and I think you were gone by the time this clicked in my head. That $10,000 thing, that is everyone. Everyone has $10,000 unless you're
because it's
going
in and
to
out of the account total. It's not how if you have to have $10,000 in your account.
In or out.
Yeah.
So if you have $5,000 coming in and you write checks for $5,000, you're at $10,000.
Right.
Okay.
Over a course of a year.
A year. So that's every single person in America that has a checking account. The reason why they're doing this is not for the IRS. First of all, if it's only for the very wealthy, why did you double the size of the IRS? They've doubled the size of the IRS and the agents that go after people. The other thing is it's not about collecting more taxes. It's about control. Because remember, Stu, what is modern monetary theory? What is it?
Basically, print as much money as you can since you have the control of the printing presses. Just keep going and keep spending. And
that's the first half.
Yeah.
Do you remember the second half?
I mean,
we never talk about the second half. The second half is we can control inflation if we have control of the companies on what they produce and how much they produce, so we can tell them immediately, produce more. And at the same time, we can tell the consumers, consume less. And so what this would give them is the ability, eventually, once you have a Bitcoin kind of Fed coin,
right,
you'd have the control of everyone's bank account. So if inflation is driving the price of gas up, well, then all we have to do is ration it for those who need to go to work. You don't need to go to work, okay? You're not an essential worker. So we're going to cut off the coin, Bitcoin or, Fed coin for you, so you won't be able to buy gas because you don't need it. That's what this is really all about. The second half of modern monetary theory. Control of the companies and control of the spending of the individual.
Because we talk about, a communist regime that would want that level of control over its population. Kim Jong-un, right? Stalin. But really, this is also maybe even more specifically what Hitler had over, what Mussolini had over his economy, where he was constantly going to these companies that were not owned by the government, quote unquote. They were privately owned, but he would go to them and tell
fascism.
them, that's what you do.
Yeah.
It's corporatism, it's fascism.
Correct.
Isn't that what we're looking at here? I mean, that's the...
Yes. We're looking at the Chinese model. That's another big story that happened, was Evergrande is going into default. And Stu, you have to listen to it. It almost made my head pop. I'm listening to the New York Times in their daily. Did you hear the one?
I listened to this episode, yeah.
Where they said, You know, China's doing something different. Did you hear about this? Did you hear this part? China's doing something different. They may decide not to bail out Evergrande.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Barbero, well, why? Why would they do that? Because they think that if they bail out this particular group that took too many risky loans out,
right,
that it will teach the rest of the banking sector that they can get away with it, and there will always be somebody to bail them out.
Oh my gosh.
Michael Barbero, so is that part of the Chinese socialist dogma? No, that's capitalism. That's
It's how it's
capitalism.
supposed to be, at
That's
least.
the way it's supposed to work. You make a bad deal, you fail. We used the socialistic, fascistic system to bail out all of the banks, and they didn't learn a damn thing. And now China and the New York Times that's fascinating. So they wouldn't bail banks out because it would set a bad precedent. So they're willing to take the hit in the short term for a long-term gain. Oh my gosh, my head almost popped.
Oh, I actually did hear that clip, and it's amazing because they were presenting it as it was
a brilliant new idea.
Yeah, a brilliant new idea, and against the socialist regime to help the company.
Yeah.
You have to help the people, and
But they are going to help the people.
They're going to throw all sorts of money. at the people.
They're saying that what they said in the New York Times was, by not helping the company, they will help the people. For instance, they'll help the people who lost their money on those investments. It's not their fault. Why should they lose their house?